Well, hello and welcome to the e-commerce podcast with me, your host, Matt Edmondson. For those of you who don't know me, a very warm welcome to you. I've been in e-commerce since 2002. I like to call myself an e-commercer because I like to make up words. It's just generally the way it works. But I've been one since 2002. I tend to partner with e-commerce brands these days, helping them grow, scale, and exit. And obviously, if you'd like to know more about that and how we could work together, excuse me, just head over to the website ecommercepodcast.net, where incidentally you can sign up to our newsletter called The E-Commercer, which has got lots of added value. And it's totally free as well. So do go check that out, all at the ecommercepodcast.net website. But that's enough about me. Let's talk about today's guest, Robert. Robert, welcome to the show, all the way from sunny Los Angeles. How are we doing today? And tell us a brief bit about yourself, good sir.
Hey Matt, thanks for having me. We're doing great. It's it's an unlikely rainy day in Los Angeles, but we're always happy to see that. But
you should try living in Liverpool. We have a sunshine day, which we're happy to see as well. So maybe.
Well, we tend to burn down here every once in a while, so rain is always welcome. But,
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So I'm the founder and CEO of FreightRight. What started as a logistics company, then evolved into a logistics technology company, and do quite a bit of work these days on the intersection of e-commerce, logistics, and technology that ties all of that together, with more emphasis on larger items and more expensive goods than your typical parcel.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Robert, I've been looking forward to this conversation because two reasons. One, we don't really have many people on the show talking about shipping products. And two, there is probably one important aspect of e-commerce which rarely gets discussed, and that's shipping products, right? So it's sort of worked well on both sides, because I know from my own experience, we get people on the show, and all our guests have been great, and we talk about email marketing, we talk about social media and social commerce and so on and so forth, but actually once we've sold the product, obviously we've got to get it to our customer, and this has been one of those things that's actually had a big impact on our business. So I think it's great that you're here, so thank you for joining us. Let's jump straight in. You obviously have shipped millions of products all over the world. I think if my data and research is correct, you're involved in 166 different countries as things currently stand. So you know a thing or two about moving boxes around the world. What's the biggest mistake you see e-commerce businesses making time and time again?
Yeah, definitely. That's let me choose one. There's
a lot.
There's a lot. Now, again, I'm going to approach this from the lens of bulkier items, right? Because that's kind of where I have the most expertise. So the biggest mistake we see e-commerce brands make is actually not ship internationally, right? Not expand into international markets. And that's probably a tie with, again, in the bulky, larger item space. The second, or maybe tied at first place, the other mistake is brands basically building the shipping into the cost of goods, because it's it's very hard to figure out how to calculate shipping for larger items. Yeah. So they tend to basically just mark up the product enough to hopefully cover most cases where they have to ship.
Okay. Right. So they've got two there. Let's dig into the first one. So not expanding into international markets. Now, if I'm going to think this through, and I don't ship bulky items. I ship tiny things like this, like supplements. Although that said, we are just about, hopefully we're getting involved with a company that does ship very bulky items. Big old, I say very bulky. I'm talking, maybe 4 foot by 3 foot by 2 foot, not like a couch or a car kind of bulk. I can understand if I say sell couches, which is the immediate bulky item that comes into my head, why I would only ship those nationally and not internationally, because it would just fill me with dread. Do you know what I mean? Just even thinking about shipping those internationally. So I'm curious as to why you see this as the biggest mistake e-commerce entrepreneurs are making, because that's quite a bold statement, and I want to dig into that.
Yeah, and again, this is from the lens of logistics guy, right, or a global logistics guy. So, by the way, a 4 foot by 3 foot by 2-3 foot, that's pretty much that's very bulky considering like FedEx, UPS, DHL, parcel carriers. That they don't like that stuff. It doesn't fit very well into their workflows, into their processes, into their conveyors, right? So that's essentially freight. It's not parcel. So what we see time and time again is basically if you're a brand and that's especially has social media presence, let's say, because with social media you don't really have a lot of control on where your content is shown, in which country, right? So you see,
Correct.
like, especially if it gets picked up by some kind of an influencer, they might have influence overseas, right? And then so you get all these people clicking on your social media content in other countries than your home market, and they essentially can't buy your product in most cases, right? So we hear from brands all the time, this is like we sell exercise machines, and let's say a US brand gets their social media content clicked on in Europe, and people click on it, they like it, they want to buy it, and then they go on the shopping cart, and there's no shipping options available to Europe from the United States. One of two things happen. One is they basically give up and move on, so you've lost the sale. Two is they actually reach out to the brand and say, hey, I want to buy your stuff. I'm in Europe. How do I buy it? Then the brand, operators are kind of, at a loss what to do, because, to the traditional method is to go and request quotes manually and then get back to the lead. And by the time you've done all that, there's so much work that goes into it. Unless your conversion rate's really high, it's not worth doing it. So this is the status quo, if you will, right? But this is especially true again of brands that have social media as a as a channel to advertise. Or not, I shouldn't say advertise, because advertising you can control.
No, I get what you mean. It's an interesting one, and there's a brand that springs to mind, right? And you talked about exercise equipment. There's a brand called Rogue, okay, Rogue, and Rogue is an American manufacturer of fitness equipment. They're quite popular in strongman and CrossFit kind of areas, and the way that they seem to have got around this, because CrossFit was a worldwide brand, was they set up, I'm guessing, a distribution center in Europe. And so I'm guessing there's some distributor in Europe somewhere which imports a whole, I'm going to imagine, a container load of goods at any one point in time. And then they distribute across Europe. Is that what, say, a US brand wanting to get into Europe should do? Or can actually the US brand ship from the US direct to the consumer now? Has that become a lot easier and maybe a lot more cost effective?
Yeah, that's Rogue Fitness is a great example, because Rogue Fitness is your traditional model of expanding into new markets, which is essentially you find a distributor. Either you find a distributor or you set up shop in that region, right? You essentially, it's the same setup essentially, because now you're giving up. First of all, it's a huge undertaking, because you have to convince a distributor to carry your brand, to buy inventory, to hold inventory, to have a marketing campaign, right? And you're competing against the distributors, other brands the distributor is representing. Now, to get that, you go to trade shows, and it's just like this really big undertaking, and takes months and years sometimes to establish in a new market. Again, alternative being you go and set it up yourself. You set up a branch, or you set up local offices, and then it's basically all that cost. So, what we're seeing, this is very general and obviously may vary, but Rogue Fitness probably spends about 40% of their revenue overseas. Basically, they give up about 40% of their revenue either to their distributor or to inventory costs and to logistics costs and administrative and all of that stuff. So it's at some point you sort of graduate to it because that's the most, I want to say, efficient place to be, where you have enough business in that region where you can establish yourself, right? But what do you do before that? What do you do if you want to test, or what do you do if you want to service a bunch of smaller countries, smaller markets where you don't want presence, or it's not worth going and spending money and finding distributors? Right. So if you're selling smaller items, there are solutions for that, right? You can actually integrate your shopping cart with, FedEx, UPS, DHL. They will automatically calculate shipping. There's a bunch of products out there that calculates duties and taxes. They'll manage them for you. And, I think Shopify recently launched a product where they will actually act as your fiscal representative locally to actually pay duties and taxes on your behalf. Right now, it of course costs a pretty penny to do that, but ultimately there's a solution. Now, again, if you're selling larger items, say exercise equipment, the solution doesn't exist because UPS or DHL would not carry your exercise equipment because it's just too heavy and too big, right? That you need a freight solution for that. So it hasn't the way we approach it is basically we're replicating the DHL service or FedEx service, but with freight. So it's commercial freight, delivered with heavy trucks and dollies and often multiple people, doing unpacking and assembly even sometimes. And essentially we're treating the buyer as our customer, right? So that we're able to represent them for local customs in the local countries, handle all of the duties and taxation, so that the brand doesn't get involved in all of that. And what that allows you to do as a brand is, let's say you're getting interest, you're a US brand and you're getting interest in Europe, right? Instead of trying to go and spend, tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars to build out the distribution network, you basically just enable shipping to that country, enable duty and tax calculation to that country, and maybe use that budget instead on some ad campaigns in that country or in that region. And that allows you to ship directly to the individual consumers in those countries to, at the very least, have coverage, not lose the sale, but also to test the waters and see is your product actually doing well in these regions.
Does it mean then, and this maybe speaks to your second point about brands building shipping costs into costs of goods, does it mean then that I'm a British customer, I go onto a Rogue Fitness website or the equivalent, what's another website in the States that I use quite a bit, Woodpeckers, which is a woodworking brand, right? So I go onto the Woodpecker website. There are certain things that they will sell and there's certain things that they won't sell. I'm guessing it's due to freight because one, they can ship with FedEx and the other one they can't. Does it mean that the costs, though, are going to start to become quite prohibitive? Because I'm thinking maybe with a hat of 15 years ago, Robert, where it was just like crazy money to ship from the States to the UK. When I lived in the States, it was crazy money to ship from the US to the UK. I don't know if things have got any better. How do you deal with the shipping costs of this activity?
Now that part has gotten better. Granted, assuming you're working with an e-commerce logistics company that specializes in e-commerce brands, right? So I think one key differentiation is to keep in mind is freight versus parcel. So parcel we're all used to Amazon or UPS drivers showing up with small boxes. That's very efficient, very mature, very consumer-centric service/product.
Yeah.
Freight has always been a commercial product. It's always been businesses buying large items from businesses, right? So it's most freight companies don't actually have even customer service personnel, so that they're not geared towards dealing with consumers. So the service expectation and the service level is kind of very odd. But it's definitely changing as we get into more and more, as species, I guess. We're getting more and more into buying stuff online, even larger stuff. Right? Like think of mattresses. It used to be bulky deliveries of these large pieces that were pretty unwieldy, requires two men to deliver. Now, most mattresses shipped basically vacuum rolled up, right? And they shipped with UPS. So we've graduated to buying mattresses online. The design of the product is evolving to support digital sort of purchasing and e-commerce deliveries and things like that. So as we're moving more and more into that space, even heavier stuff is becoming more and more common to buy online, right? 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't really buy furniture online. Now it's basically all you do, right? Common. So we as an industry, like the logistics industry, is definitely evolving with e-commerce brands like Temu and Shein and Amazon and all of these guys. They've really jump-started the efficiency game when it comes to consolidations. Making basically building up containers or airline containers, let's just say, or ocean containers of consolidated e-commerce goods, which basically reduces the cost. Because you're bringing the same kind of efficiency that retailers use to import their inventory. You're doing that for e-commerce brands. So think of, instead of a container that has, let's say, 10,000 t-shirts, going to, say, Walmart or Target, you have a container with 10,000 t-shirts that are individually labeled to go to the final buyer. Right. So you're still consolidating the container. You're still making use of that space and that wholesale level of shipping, if you will. Right. Now, you could also, I think, successfully argue that shipping directly. Again, I'm going to jump back to bulky items here. Shipping bulky items directly from the country of origin to the consumer in the country where you're selling individually saves a lot of logistics cost compared to shipping to a distributor who then has to basically inventory the stuff, at a margin, right? Cover their operations. There's like a whole world of logistics cost there, where shipping an individual item, you're basically bypassing all of that. You're cutting all of that out. So if done efficiently, it could potentially be a game changer, right? And think of all the de minimis rules, which admittedly are under attack and getting cut
a little bit countries. Under flux,
But that's huge, because then for a lot of products you're also avoiding duties, right? So in the US it's been a game changer. Obviously, not a great one for the consumer, but under $800 basically you don't pay duty, which means traditionally if you bought, let's say, a chair that costs $1,000. Right, a lot of it is logistics cost, a lot of it is duties, warehousing, and all of that. Whereas if you ship it from the origin under the minimis rules, you only declare essentially the cost of the product and not any of the logistics. So that allows you to bring the declared value under $800, therefore avoid duties. Like that whole thing just makes it a lot more cheaper.
Yeah.
That also throws out a lot of regulation and a lot of consumer safety stuff. So it's not necessarily a great thing, but at least cost-wise, it's a game changer.
Yeah, makes it easier. Listen, this is great. If you are listening to the show and you're involved in e-commerce yourself, you're an e-commerce founder, why not check out eCommerce Cohorts? Yes, eCommerce Cohort. These are monthly cohort groups which are run totally free of charge. You can come meet other e-commerce entrepreneurs. There's one in the States, there's one in the UK, there's one in Australia, which also services New Zealand. So if you'd like to know more about Cohort, head over to the website, ecommercepodcast.net. It'd be great to see you in there. Robert, you mentioned briefly there, and I want to circle back to it. How's the whole tariff thing at the moment with e-commerce, especially. I mean, I know if I import steel into the US, I'm screwed. If I try and sell cars to the US, I'm screwed. But I mean, you know, it feels a little bit Wild Westy at the moment. Just because you never know what's going to happen one day to the next. But how's that affecting shipping? So maybe customers who are actually exporting to the US, and maybe not the US shipping to Europe. If I'm in Europe and shipping to the US, how's it all looking out there?
It is very volatile. I think Wild West is a comparison I've made a couple of times. I've heard it a few times, and then I think there's a good reason for it.
Yeah.
The tariffs are not. It's not just about tariffs, right? First of all, nobody likes business doesn't like volatility. So having containers on the way or having shipments on the way that you already pre-planned and in a lot of cases pre-sold to be hit with tariffs is quite a disaster, right? If you're a business. But there's a whole logistics challenge side of it, because what ends up happening with the current administration, they're moving very fast, and a lot of times seems making decisions on the go. Maybe based on negotiations they're having at the time with a particular country, or whatever the case may be. But it's moving very fast, and the world of logistics is system-wise, you can't move that fast, right? So I'll give you an example. When they announced a 25% tariff on steel, the new one, or I think aluminium for our Europeans.
For the Europeans,
right? So, so when they announced that, it supposedly went into effect, and the way as a customs broker you handle that is there's you have your HS code or HTS code for the product that you type into your system, and it calculates the duty amount that you're supposed to pay. There's another one that you type in there specifically for aluminium that would add another tariff on top. Problem is customs, it takes a lot of software programming and a lot of system administration to actually make that work. And it took a good, I want to say 7 to 10 days for it to start working. Now, all of the shipments that were in transit and arrived and were pending clearance at the time couldn't be cleared. Now, 7 to 10 days, maybe not that big of a deal, but think of all the air freight shipments that are sitting at the airports. They cannot be cleared, cannot be picked up. You're talking about God knows how much money in storage charges and delays. Like 1,000-kilo shipment that arrived in the United States and sits at the airport past 24 hours can easily accrue like $600 a day in storage charges.
Right.
And then that's $6,000 if your freight sits there for 10 days, because like literally the code doesn't work because it hasn't been programmed yet. So there's a lot of this kind of things happening. They're happening all the time. We have a brand customer of ours that's their product seemingly fits into the aluminium tariff, but it's not actually on the list, so they don't know how to set the sell price. They don't know if this is a mistake, it's going to get added later, or can because you're talking about 25% on top of your landed cost, obviously makes a huge difference, right? So there's a lot of inconsistency. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of unknowns that people are battling.
Yeah, and I imagine it's not just into the States as well. I imagine it's the same for the US now, because a lot of countries have retaliated, right? They've gone, well, if you're putting tariffs on me, we'll put tariffs on ours. And so you've got problems with it. Kind of reminds me, I suppose, a little bit, Robert, of the pandemic, with COVID, and just nobody knew what was doing. And of course, in the UK, we had Brexit, and then that just went and screwed everything up where shipping was concerned. And so it kind of feels like it's been a volatile thing for a few years, if I'm honest with you, the whole shipping thing.
Correct. I think we got a little bit of a break between COVID and this trade war explosion. But you're right. I mean, honestly, you get a little desperate at times with, with all the problems, uh, and then, but then, I always look back and I've been handling international logistics and customs for like 23 years. So uh, it's very rare that you have like a period of no disruptions, right? It's so there's always something. It's you have the
Well, you're dealing with
rents.
governments, aren't you? So there's going to be something.
Well, governments, pirates, natural disasters, right? You've got, Ever Given getting stuck in the not Panama Canal, Suez Canal, right? So it's just not a day goes by without something being a disruption in the world of logistics. And that's for us logisticians, right? But really not a year goes by without something that becomes mainstream media kind of level disruption. So it's just, I feel like it is what it is. It's just times are volatile, and I don't think it's something that just happened. It's been many years. I think that it's that's the paradigm we operate in, and I think so. There's that saying like life is really hard, but if you really accept that life is hard, it just no longer matters. Right? So that's international trade. Once you truly accept that this is just how international trade works, then you learn to work within it.
So that ties in nicely with your first comment about how not expanding into international markets is a big mistake. I wonder if part of the reason for that is because there's too much uncertainty in people's heads. Like if I ship this item that is big and bulky, will it get there? Will the customer claim that it's not arrived? Do you know what I mean? There's all these kind of questions that just get magnified, I think, when you put an ocean between the two countries, don't
they? Correct. And now I look at it a little differently, right? In fact, I see it quite the opposite sort of light, because to me, especially in the context of, let's say, Europe and United States, or UK and United States, the trade between these countries, a lot of the goods are actually not manufactured in either of these countries, right? These are brands that manufacture typically in Asia, right? So, when you're talking about international freight and international expansion, now think of expanding and actually fulfilling from the source, right? Let's say you're a UK brand selling to US, let's say Chinese-made goods. Now you bring them to UK, and then you ship them to US. There's it's a longer life cycle for the product. There's a lot more things that can go wrong in between. Now imagine fulfilling that product from China direct to the United States. Maybe not the best example given the tension between US and China with trade, but at least you're removing all of these other things in between. You're removing the time it takes for this product to move around. You're removing a third country with its own sort of trade and political dynamics. So it's becoming a more straightforward transaction. Now, looking at it from a US brand perspective, where we Americans are not the most popular country right now in the world, right? So if you're selling Asia-made products to, let's say, Canada or Australia or Europe, it would be like a whole different thing shipping your product straight from the factory to the consumer versus shipping it from your US inventory, where it's subject now to retaliations. That's other stuff, right? So it could be an enabler, and it could be a nice sort of hedge strategy, basically allowing you a lot more flexibility than just selling in the United States or just selling in the UK.
That's very true. Actually, I had not thought about that. So the idea that with the trade war, especially if you're not a popular country like the US at the moment, then actually that makes a lot of sense. So you can send your goods to Canada still, but just send them straight from China, as opposed to bring them into the US first, where it's just going to be problematic, and then shipping them out of the US to Canada is another set of problems. Whereas I imagine the trade between Canada and China is pretty reasonable. In fact, I think Temu have just started something in Canada from memory. So I think I see that making a lot of sense, actually, and hopefully resolving at least some of the issues, if not all of them. Where do you, let's say, the company that I was mentioning to you with the 4 foot by 3 foot things, where's a good place to get started? So they're in good old Blighty, good old UK, Blighty as we like to call it. They are manufactured. The products are manufactured in China. And so let's say we go, actually, we feel like we could do a good job in the US market. We feel like we're starting to get some traction there. How do I get started? Where do we start?
I think, I guess a good start is to understand, which you seem to have done already, how well you can do in the United States, right? Mm-hmm. I would start with if you're talking about like the shipping and tax calculation, that's for us that's very easy. That's what we do. We can probably set that up within a week or so, and you can actually start playing. Right? If you're a brand, you can start playing around with analytics and maybe put a little bit of a campaign behind it to see if you can get people to purchase your product. You don't need a new shopping cart. You don't need to enable anything. It's just you're basically enabling additional countries for additional products, and you can select which SKUs you want to enable internationally. So it's pretty dynamic. I think the first things you want to look at is returns are still challenging, right? So you want to understand how often are you going to get returns? Can you actually maybe not either not accept returns or maybe change your return policy a little bit? Typically, if you're shipping international and it goes through commercial customs clearance, you want to have custom return policy for that market. So I would definitely look into the return policy. One of the most obvious things is your product compliant in that country, and does your product work in that country? I mean, we're talking about if it's electronics, you want to make sure it works with 110 volts with the US outlets and things like that, right? These days most products do, you just include an additional sort of an adapter of some sort, and you can start with including an adapter, and then once you see your market develops, basically, then you make a US specific product, right? With whatever that may mean for that particular product. But those are some of the things I would look at is can I actually readily ship this stuff to the United States, and will it work there? And, on a very general level, is this product compliant with US regulation? Will it run into some kind of government issues? We do have slightly different standards between US, Europe, and UK. But for most products, it's not that big of a deal unless you're selling specialized things, right? So those are the things I would look at first, and then if you clear those hurdles, then actually talk to somebody who can enable instant shipping calculation and duty and tax handling.
So this is an interesting one, isn't it? That you've raised there that there are legislative differences between the US, Europe, and the UK, and Australia as well. I'm going to throw those guys in there as well down in the Southern Hemisphere. So you do have these different regulations, which I know about this because shipping supplements to the UK is different to selling supplements in the UK. They've got the FDA. They have different sets of rules, some of which are more intense, some of which are a bit less lackadaisical. I suppose my question here, Robert, is it legislatively, is it a case of generally legislation is more intense in the US than it is in, say, Europe and the UK? Or is it the other way around? I'm just kind of curious which one's easier to ship to.
I feel like US is a little more intense than UK. Europe and Europe. I think regulation in Europe and UK is largely sort of on par.
Mm-hmm.
But US, in some respects, is a little more intense. But it's also in all of those four, right? Europe, UK, Australia, actually New Zealand, US. It's actually generally pretty easy compared to everywhere else in the world, right? So they're all sort of declaration based, right? So it's all what you declare kind of is taken as the basis versus, let's say, Middle Eastern countries or Asia, where you have to have like a whole sort of proof of everything, right? From the declared value has to be based on actual purchases versus like a declaration and things like that. So in some respects, they're all pretty easy. In others, like if you're shipping, I guess again it depends whether you're shipping supplements or things that are under a certain value and under de minimis rules versus larger items, which typically tends to be more expensive and typically tends to be commercial clearance. They tend to require commercial clearances. With commercial clearances, you have to comply with all the government requirements, right? Because you do actually go through those declarations, those processes. De minimis in the United States, at least, and to some extent in Europe as well, if you fly under de minimis, you fly under radar, essentially, because other government agencies don't actually check. If you're shipping like a parcel, it's considered a personal, it's going to an individual, it's a personal parcel. FDA actually doesn't look at it, which is good for the brand, bad for the American consumer because, you don't know what you're putting in your body.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it kind of depends on, are you under de minimis or above de minimis, right? That's the biggest, I guess, differentiator, whether compliance is an issue or not.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. In the early days, we used to ship from Jersey in the Channel Islands, for those of you who don't know, Jersey is a small island off the north coast of France, which is kind of independently British. And we shipped from Jersey to the UK and to Europe, and there was no sales tax if the product was like under 20, I can't remember what it was. Let's say it was £20. If the value was under £20, you didn't have to pay the sales tax, which in the UK is 20%. So that's a lot of money, right? You're saving instantly. And so what we used to do was actually it was cheaper. And I don't know if this works when you multiply it out, Robert, maybe but when it was cheaper, or it was cheaper to send out 3 parcels, but all under £20 than one parcel with a value of £60 because of the VAT savings versus the cost of shipping, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And we've a lot of brands do this kind of optimization. You even hear which that it was pretty shocking to discover that that's actually done is if you go to a retail chain, let's say Nordstrom's in the United States. Now I don't know if Nordstrom actually does this, but this is similar retailer. You could go and buy, let's say, an expensive purse, right? And if it's let's say it's an $800 purse. If you go to Nordstrom and it's in stock and you get it off the shelf and you pay for it, you pay everything, right? Duties and taxes, everything's included in there. The sales tax calculated on top of it. But if they're out of stock and they ship it to you, right? You order it. You go in store and you're like, I like this person. Like, we don't have it, but we can order it for you, right? And they take your information and they ship it from their supplier overseas directly to you. Now that becomes a de minimis transaction because it's addressed to an individual. It's not addressed to Nordstrom, and it bypasses duties. It bypasses even sales tax at that point. Wow. Well, maybe not sales tax, but it does bypass the duties because now it's shipped from overseas. It's an international de minimis transaction to the consumer, handled by a large brand that just bypassed paying duties on the product, right? So these kind of optimizations, the very organized companies do this really well. And what's interesting in that example is that the consumer is none the wiser. The consumer doesn't actually get passed on the savings, right? Because they just paid the retail price that was in the store. So
That's really interesting. Yeah. I'm thinking actually, like with subscription e-commerce, that's a really interesting strategy because you actually know what's getting shipped and when. So if you're shipping internationally and it's going to take a little bit longer to try and take advantage of those kind of rules, then I suppose you can plan a bit more ahead of time, right? So because I know in the UK there's such a large expectation on next day delivery because the country is so small, right? Why would you not get next day delivery? Of course, if I'm shipping from source, if I'm shipping from say China, then it's 5 to 6 days delivery. It's not next day. And so that I think you either do that on a subscription model where you can plan ahead of time with the dates, or you give, I suppose, the customer the option. If you want it next day, it's this much money. If you want it in 7 days, it could be a few pence less. Maybe, I don't know. It's an interesting problem.
Absolutely, I think it's a very interesting problem, and I think all the pieces and the foundation is there to explore it, exploit maybe not the good word for it, but optimize it, right? Optimize for the stuff, because this is a strategy that could have a huge impact. Now, the example I always like to bring is especially after COVID, but even now, if you go on let's say a brand website that sells furniture, furnishings, let's say none come to mind, but you select a couch, right? You like a couch, you select it, and they will give you 3 options. Actually, you'll say the colors that are available to ship immediately, colors that are available to ship in 7 to 10 days, and then everything below these 50 colors you can choose is going to take 2 months to get your product. And it's obvious, right? The ones that are shipping immediately, they have them in stock. The ones that are shipping in 7 to 10 days, it's inventory in transit. They know it's coming. It's not necessarily in stock, but they can trace it back to the SKU that's and the PO that's in transit.
Yeah.
And then everything else is essentially like you click this color, we're actually going to go manufacture this thing for you, right? And it's it makes so much sense that it's broken down into these 3 categories and these 3 shipping timeframes, because not everybody urgently wants this couch, right? People would rather have the color they want. They don't care if it takes 2 months. So not, especially when you get into bulky items and more expensive items, the sort of instant gratification thing, it's a lot less prevalent than, say,
well, yeah, there's an expectation, isn't there, that it's going to take longer with a bigger, bulkier item just because of the shipping. Like I've just gone and ordered a new hob and it's going to take a week to get here, and you kind of, a week would be insane if it was a supplement, but because it's a hob coming from John Lewis, you kind of go, well, no, okay, it's big, it's bulky, we've got to arrange that, right?
So yeah, so with bulky, larger, expensive items, that's, I think the expectations are different. With after COVID, especially, I think people are used to it, and you see more and more brands doing this with these different options, right? So I think it's become pretty common. People are used to it. It's not, it doesn't look weird. It doesn't look out of ordinary. It doesn't look to sort of diminish the brand's performance anymore. So I think it's definitely a great strategy to do that, especially if you can optimize for, cost, right?
It's a really great idea. I'm curious, Robert, because I don't know the answer. Now you've got my brain thinking now. It's just dangerous, really. Let's say I'm shipping goods to the US, and the current level is $800, isn't it? I think the current de minimis level is $800. Now, is that $800 cost of goods, or is that $800 invoice value that the customer has paid?
It's invoice value, but with a nice kick to it. So you don't actually have to include the freight charges in it.
Okay, so invoice value less freight.
Yeah, so if you're charging if you're charging $790 plus you're charging $200 to ship it, that's not a $990 transaction. It's a $790 full under the minimis shipping. Is broken out. US and Europe and UK are different in that US doesn't duty the freight. If I'm not mistaken, in UK you pay duty based on CIF value, which is basically cost of goods plus insurance plus freight. In the US, you take the insurance and freight out, so it's not considered cost of goods when customs looks at it.
Yeah.
So this is another thing that de minimis allows you to do, is basically, you break out the freight, whereas if you sold local inventory, your landed cost already includes all of that stuff, right? So your sell price is much higher, your sales tax is much higher, your everything's much higher.
That's really interesting. I'm going to go and investigate and have a little think about that, because that seems like an interesting idea. Like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if England charges more, because we like to tax everything to stupid levels in England. It's just the way it works.
And I mean, at 21%, that's a huge problem for international trade, because like international e-commerce, because you're selling something that's $10,000, it shows up at customers' country, and then they get a call and they're like, "Oh, you have to pay £2,000 in taxes," right? It could be quite the sticker shock.
Well, it is, and it's not even on smaller items. Like I've ordered a pair of trainers. I didn't realize they were actually shipping from the US, but they were. And I had to pay not only the import duty on those trainers, but I also had to pay UPS for handling the, do you know what I mean, that they shipped it. UPS charged me 20 some bucks just to handle the money. And then somebody else charged me some money, and I paid the value of the trainers again, which ironically didn't fit, but I couldn't send back. And so the whole thing was a nightmare. So, yeah, it's quite an extraordinary thing when you go through things like that. But I wouldn't surprise me, because welcome to Britain. Robert, while I remember, I like to ask my guests for a question for Matt. This is a question where I will go and answer it on social media. I don't answer it on the podcast. This is my little tease, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, come follow me at Matt Edmondson, and you'll find the answer to the question which Robert is about to ask me. Robert, what's your question?
That's interesting. Let me think. I'm going to try to keep it within the theme of the conversation. I'm curious, what do you think is the most popular American item that Brits like to buy that's not available locally?
That's a really good question. How would I answer that? I'll answer that maybe slightly different ways. One, from my teenage daughter's point of view. There are certain flavors of M&Ms that are only available in the US. But no, I will have a think about that. And I will answer that question. If you want to know how I'm going to answer that question, come follow me, like I say, on LinkedIn at Matt Edmondson. Speaking of contact details and how people reach you, Robert, how do people find you? How do they connect with you if they want to do
that? Real easy, freightrights.com, FREIGHT, everything's there. If you want to contact me directly, click on Teams, click on Team. You can find my profile there, and send me a message, or you can contact the company directly. There's a lot of stuff on the website about e-commerce solutions, international taxation solutions, and how to sell your big and bulky items internationally, as well as your traditional logistics, for brands that import and export commercially. All of that information is there.
Fantastic. We will, of course, link to freightright.com in the show notes. And so if you're listening to this on the podcast app, just scroll down and just click the link if you want to find out more, just go and click that link. Of course, you can also be also in the YouTube description if you're watching online. And also, of course, if you're subscribed to our rather wonderful newsletter, even if I do say so myself, you'll find the information in that as well. Robert, thank you for joining me. I genuinely enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I've got a few strategies now, which is always super helpful. But before we sign out, we've started doing this save the best till last thing. And so I'm curious, you, according to my notes here, you started selling newspapers from the age of 9 years old in Armenia, and then you are now living in LA. You started the logistics company in the middle of an economic crisis, because, what else are you going to do in the middle of an economic crisis? What's your top tip for entrepreneurs, whether e-commerce entrepreneurs or just people in business generally, when things are genuinely unstable, and as they are probably quite rightly now in the world, what's been your biggest tip as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think, there's never probably a good time to start a business. Starting in the middle of a recession, in the middle of a crisis, in the middle of volatility seems very counterintuitive. I have discovered it's not. I've discovered it makes a lot of sense because this is where people are looking. This is when people are looking for solutions, right? People are dealing with a lot of issues, with a lot of unknowns, and search volumes around specific things may be higher than usual. It actually is a great opportunity to start. When I was getting started in 2007, I didn't understand this. I was doing it because I was forced to. I couldn't find a job that paid enough to pay my bills, so I basically jumped into this entrepreneurship experiment a lot sooner than I had planned, right? And two customers of mine at the time, basically, their advice was so simple it kind of registered, and I always repeat those two. One was, if you start in the middle of a recession, there's nowhere else to go but up, right? It's not going to get any worse.
True. Yeah.
And then the other one was saying, hey, we had a meeting with our board, and we basically decided that we're not going to participate in the current recession, right? So that's the other one that really stuck, which is, just if you truly believe it, you can play above it. You don't need to participate in the recession. It doesn't need to be your problem, especially if you're getting started, because that's the environment in which you're getting started. There's no surprises. It's pretty crappy. So, just make the best of it and bring real solutions to the problems, and people will come to you.
Yeah, that's top advice. I do like that because, like you say, in the middle of a recession, or when things are turbulent, people are uncertain. When people are uncertain, you've got a tremendous amount of opportunity, I think, and figuring out what that is not always straightforward, but I think there is opportunity there, and finding it is a great thing. Robert, listen, man, loved having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. But yeah, and if you're new to the show, very warm welcome to you. Make sure you like and subscribe and do all of that really funky stuff, because I'll be back again next week with another fabulous conversation. But from Robert and from me, that's it. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a phenomenal week wherever you are in the world. I will see you next time. Bye for now.